Welcome to the Deep Dive. So today we're going to take a close look at Nigeria. We'll be using the newspaper headlines from May 21st, 2025. It gets you this, well, fascinating snapshot, doesn't it? Covers everything: security, economy, government stuff, social issues, even a bit of history. Our mission, really, for this deep dive is to get past just the headlines, pull out the really significant bits, the interesting threads, and try to figure out what they're telling us about Nigeria today. And maybe its place in the wider world, too.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like holding up a mirror, isn't it? Capturing this moment in time through the issues that are actually making the news. And what jumps out immediately, I think, is just the sheer scope, how interconnected all these different areas really are. You see a local security incident, and, well, it can ripple through the economy. Political decisions, they obviously shape social realities on the ground.
Okay, let's try and unpack this then, starting with security. Sadly, it seems like a pretty prominent theme in today's news. We're seeing reports of a really tragic bandit attack up in Katsina, a devastating loss of life, looks like 19 deaths reported, and houses destroyed too. Just awful.
Yeah, truly awful.
And then if we move south down to Oyo, there's this a very tense situation. Protests happening after a schoolboy was killed, hit by a stray bullet, according to the reports. And it looks like the Oyo government has already made a statement about the circumstances, mentioning the boy's father was driving against traffic at the time.
Right, which adds another layer, doesn't it? It's a stark illustration, really, of the challenges around just basic safety, law enforcement in different parts of the country.
And the striking thing is the variety of these security challenges, just in these two headlines we've mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the organized crime, the banditry in the north, then these public safety concerns in cities, like that accidental shooting in Oyo. And then, look, there's news of a prison break in Alesa as well, a manhunt underway, plus that protest in Calabar involving nurses after a patient died. That points towards potential issues maybe in healthcare, maybe the justice system, or both.
Yeah, it suggests a really multifaceted security landscape. Needs equally diverse solutions, I suppose.
No doubt.
And the news keeps coming on this front, the Katsina Emir having to dethrone a village head. That's quite a drastic step over really serious allegations, kidnap and rape.
That really underscores a potential breakdown, doesn't it? Trust authority right at the very local level.
It really does. And then there's this incredibly disturbing story out of Abia. A father allegedly setting his wife and children on fire, tragically resulting in his daughter's death. And the reported reason, accusations of infidelity. It's just horrifying. And in Lagos, the grim discovery, a missing banker's body found with machete wounds. These individual stories, they just paint such a troubling picture of violence, affecting communities all over for different, deeply concerning reasons.
And these aren't just isolated events. They can't be seen that way. Collectively, they just emphasize this critical ongoing need for stronger law enforcement, yes, but also effective community safety programs and a real focus on tackling the underlying stuff, the factors that contribute to violence, economic struggles, maybe social inequalities, domestic conflicts.
Yeah.
And you see the reaction, the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, strongly condemning the student's death in Oyo, demanding justice. That highlights the public demand for accountability, doesn't it, when these tragedies happen?
It does. And Plateau State setting up an 11-person panel to investigate killings there.
Yeah.
That seems like an official recognition, at least, that thorough inquiries are needed. It looks like border security is also getting attention. The minister mentioned significant resources going into border surveillance.
Right.
But then you also see customs seizing a pretty substantial amount of PMS, gasoline in Adamawa.
Yeah.
So it suggests that even with investment, securing Nigeria's borders against illicit trade, well, it's still a huge challenge.
It absolutely is. It's a persistent problem.
On a more maybe proactive note, the Nigerian Air Force is unveiling a plan for civilian harm mitigation and response.
Now, that sounds positive. That sounds like a really important development, actually. It suggests a growing awareness, perhaps within the military, of the need to, minimize unintended harm to civilians during their operations, and to have a clear process for responding when incidents like that unfortunately do happen.
Yeah, that process part is crucial.
And one more thing on security is sort of related. The statement from Yeriela saying open grazing is becoming unsustainable in Benue State. That could potentially signal a pretty significant shift. And how stakeholders approach those long-running, often violent conflicts between farmers and herders. That's been a major source of insecurity there for years.
Okay, let's shift our focus a bit. Let's talk economy. The central bank, the CBN, has decided again to keep the interest rate where it is, high, at 27.50%. What are the likely sort of consequences of that decision holding steady?
Well, look, keeping a high interest rate like that, it's a standard tool, really. Central banks use it to try and wrestle inflation down, keep prices from rising too fast, and also to try and stabilize the currency, the naira. But there's always a trade-off, isn't there? The side effect can be that it makes borrowing money more expensive for businesses, for individuals, and that could potentially slow down economic growth, maybe dampen investment a bit. So yeah, the CBN is walking a tightrope, trying to balance those competing priorities.
A tightrope? Yeah, that sounds about right. Meanwhile, the federal government, the FG, is planning a pretty big auction. 753 duplexes seized from Godwin Emafiel. That's a very visible move.
Oh, absolutely. Very visible. It sends a strong signal, doesn't it, about the government's stance on fighting corruption, recovering assets they believe were acquired illegally. And the money from a sale like that, well, in theory, it could be reinvested. Public services, other national priorities.
Right. On a possibly more encouraging economic note, the World Bank is going to support rainwater farming initiatives in Nigeria. That sounds like a really, smart, sustainable approach, especially when you think about climate change concerns, food security.
Yeah, that's potentially very good news. Adapting farming methods is crucial. And then you have figures like Akpabio and others urging African nations to finally move beyond just exporting raw materials.
That's a goal that's been talked about for decades, hasn't it?
It has indeed. Breaking free from that cycle, just shipping out raw stuff, and instead focusing on adding value locally. Through processing, manufacturing, it's absolutely crucial for long-term economic development across the whole continent, really. It could create more jobs, boost national revenues, build, more resilient economies.
And linking back to that asset recovery idea.
Yeah.
The Senate is moving to create an asset recovery agency. Seems to directly support the government's efforts on financial crime.
Exactly. Reclaiming illegally obtained wealth, which could then potentially be channeled towards those development goals we were just talking about. And you see the House of Reps calling for regulations on foreign textile imports. That's clearly trying to protect and, well, hopefully strengthen local industries, give them a fighting chance.
It's interesting, too, how the legal system and the economy intersect here. The EFCC, that's the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, starting the trial of an oil magnate. Significant fraud allegations involved. And then there's this rather worrying statistic, the amount of U.S. dollars being used for fuel imports, surging by a massive 119%.
Wow, 119%. Yeah, that really highlights Nigeria's continued heavy reliance on imported fuel and the huge pressure that puts on the country's foreign exchange reserves.
Exactly. That surge really underscores the urgent need, doesn't it, to sort out Nigeria's domestic refining capacity.
And also, to explore and actually invest in more sustainable energy alternatives, to lessen this heavy dependence on foreign currency for something so basic.
Yeah, it feels like that's been on the agenda for a long time, too.
It has. And then the FG's assessment saying the performance of the distribution companies, the DISCOs, in providing power supply is disappointing. Well, that just further emphasizes the ongoing struggles in the energy sector, which has massive implications, right, for the whole economy's productivity and just for people's daily lives.
Absolutely. And tackling that huge debt burden, over 4 trillion naira, faced by AMSON and its partners, that's another critical piece of the economic puzzle. Needs resolving for financial system stability.
Definitely a major overhang.
We're also seeing some interesting moves in the private sector, though. Ecobank raising a good chunk of money, $125 million, through a Eurobond, borrowing internationally.
Yes, tapping into international markets.
Meanwhile, Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company, hitting a major milestone. Market capitalization reaching $44.64 billion after 30 years. That's quite a journey.
It is. Shows growth in that sector.
And NHCO, the aviation handling company, declaring a pretty substantial dividend. Good news for their shareholders. Plus, the Standards Organization of Nigeria, SO, warning manufacturers about using dodgy calibration services. Important for quality control, obviously.
Critical, yeah. Maintaining standards.
And Lagos State. Ambitious plans for an electric vehicle plant, targeting 10,000 a year output. That's looking ahead.
Very much so. Investing in future technologies.
And then there's this rather novel suggestion from the Speaker of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila, suggesting universities should try and attract more foreign students as a way to boost their revenue streams.
That's certainly a thought-provoking idea. International students can bring in significant funds, absolutely, and foster cultural exchange, which is valuable too. But it would need a really strategic, concerted effort, wouldn't it? to make sure Nigerian universities can offer genuinely competitive programs and a welcoming, supportive environment for students coming from abroad. It's not just about opening the doors.
No, requires real investment and planning. Okay, let's shift gears again. Politics, government developments. We've got this May 29th deadline coming up for President Tinubu to review his ministers' performance scorecards. That often hints at a potential cabinet reshuffle, doesn't it? Or at least a serious evaluation of who's doing what, effectively.
It usually does, yes. It suggests accountability is, or should be, on the agenda. It's a positive signal for governance if followed through properly.
And the president is back in Abuja after his trip to the Vatican. He's also approved a pretty significant initiative, training 5 million Nigerian workers in AI deployment, artificial intelligence.
Wow, 5 million, that's a substantial number.
It is a clear sign of looking towards the future of the workforce, preparing for technological shifts.
Definitely a forward-looking move, recognizing AI's growing importance across, well, pretty much every sector these days. And you also mentioned the president hailing Prince Abulawo at 95. That's sort of a customary recognition of elder statesmen.
Right. And then back to more, let's say, bread and butter political issues. Enugu State demanding a 13% oil derivation share, that old chestnut.
Yeah, that's a recurring and really important issue, isn't it? Resource control, equity between the states never really goes away.
No. And protests by workers in Abuja over withheld salaries, pensions, highlighting those ongoing challenges in the public sector. Timely pay, Social Security.
Crucial issues for those workers, absolutely. Affects morale, livelihoods.
A National Assembly, NAS, seems busy too. A pension bill for its own staff moving forward. And the FCT's budget, a big one, N$1.78 trillion, getting through its second reading in the House of Reps.
Right, the legislative wheels turning.
And it's encouraging, I think, to see the Reps Committee urging states to adopt anti-corruption laws. That feels like a crucial step, tackling graft at all levels.
Absolutely vital for building a more transparent, accountable framework right across the country, not just at the federal level.
But then another Reps panel is demanding an independent probe into errors in the 2025 UTME exams. That suggests some serious concerns about the university entrance process, its integrity.
Yeah, that's significant. Public trust in that system is critical. It affects so many young people's futures. Any hint of errors needs proper investigation. And then you have the ICPC chair questioning the West's right to label Africans as corrupt.
That raises an interesting point, doesn't it? About the complexities of corruption, potential biases in perception.
It does, a different perspective. And states are apparently drafting a new framework for more local government autonomy, LG autonomy.
That could be a really big deal. Strengthening governance right down at the grassroots level if it actually translates into real power and resources for LGs. Yeah. And the federal panel submitting its report on census funding. Crucial groundwork for the census itself whenever that happens.
Yes.
Essential for planning, resource allocation.
Absolutely essential data.
Now, the second anniversary of President Tinubu's administration is coming up, May 29th, and it's already generating buzz. Wike, the SCT minister, announcing 19 days of project commissioning, a very busy schedule.
Showcasing activity.
Though, it seems President Tinubu's visit to Awabia to inaugurate projects there has been postponed slightly.
Okay, minor rescheduling perhaps.
But look at this. We're already seeing a flurry of political endorsements positioning for the 2027 elections. Feels early, but maybe it's never too early in politics.
Perhaps not.
Governor Umahi of Ebonyi urging Peter Obi to join other Southeast leaders in backing Tinubu for 2027.
Interesting move.
And apparently all the PDP senators from Ulsan State have endorsed Tinubu as well.
All of them? That's quite a statement from within the opposition party.
It is. Meanwhile, the PDP itself is apparently trying to persuade the Southeast or rethink its threat to leave the party. Over some nomination issue, UD Okohe, so internal wrangling there too.
Yeah, these developments really highlight the constant maneuvering, don't they? The early positioning for future elections, these endorsements, the appeals. They show how fluid political alliances can be, everyone trying to build support bases.
Even down to the local level, the APC setting nomination formed prices for FCT area council chairs at N20 million. That's a significant barrier to entry.
It certainly is. And it speaks to the cost of participating in politics.
And we're seeing dynamics in Rivers, with the state APC chair welcoming Governor Fubara to join their party.
Right, more potential shifts in allegiance.
And Labour Party crisis continues, it seems.
Yeah.
Governor Audi's camp challenging INE's recognition of Abure as leader.
Internal party struggles playing out publicly. Governor Adi also explained why fixing up Government House wasn't his top priority initially. Offers a glimpse into his administration's focus.
Yeah. And Governor Sanwo-Olu in Lagos emphasizing transparency in the Civil Service Commission. That's a positive message.
Always welcome. Good governance principles. You also mentioned Imo hosting the 2025 Ahia-Joku Festival, Gombe's governor signing an electricity law, funding solar streetlights.
Right. State-level activities, cultural promotion, infrastructure.
Nasarawa's governor denying 2027 senatorial ambitions. Governor Ino in Akwa Ibom saying Tinubu didn't create Nigeria's problems but is working on them, adds to the political commentary.
And Oyo Assembly making the Council of Obas chairmanship rotational, bowing to pressure, and seeking justice for that student killed by the stray bullet.
Shows responsiveness, perhaps, to public concerns and traditional structures.
Plus, Abia recruiting 5,300 teachers, Anambra privatizing a factory, Lagos investing N3TN in coastal erosion communities. It's a real mix of state-level actions.
It really illustrates the diverse range of issues governors and state assemblies are grappling with. Education, economy, environment, governance, it's all happening.
Okay, let's turn our attention now to some social and legal issues that caught our eye. There's a defamation suit involving Femi Falana, the prominent lawyer, moving forward in court with a fine issued against someone called VDM.
Okay, defamation cases often draw attention.
And the Nigerian Bar Association, the NBA, is speaking out. They're condemning a proposed bill on compulsory voting, raising questions about civic liberties, I guess.
Yeah, that's a fundamental debate, isn't it? The right to vote versus being forced to vote. The NBA weighing in is significant.
And the exam controversy. It's rumbling on. Ohanaeze Ndigbo, the Igbo sociocultural group, calling for the J&B registrar to be suspended.
Strong call from a major group. Reflects deep dissatisfaction with how things were handled.
And adding to that, there's a lawsuit reportedly delaying results for, 40,000 underage candidates from the J&B exams.
40,000. That's a huge number of students and families left in limbo. Serious implications there.
Even the new student loan program, NELFND, seems to be hitting early bumps. Reports of low application numbers from River State University.
Might be teething problems, awareness issues, or maybe concerns about the terms. Needs looking into.
On a more positive infrastructure note, the Nigerian Railway Corporation, NRC, is fixing the damaged rail track in Osogbo, just in time for the Sala celebrations. That'll help travelers.
Good news. Essential repairs to keep transport flowing, especially during peak travel times.
But FCT teachers and local government workers are on strike, and they've apparently given conditions before they'll suspend it. Highlights ongoing labor disputes.
Yeah, strikes often point to unresolved issues around pay, conditions, or pensions.
There is some good news for students, though. Abia State University, ABSU, got full accreditation from the NUC for 5 key programs.
Oh, that's excellent for ABSU. Accreditation is vital for universities and their students' qualifications.
Definitely. But then, on the flip side, civil society organizations, CSOs, are raising serious concerns about the alleged misuse of the Cybercrime Act against journalists, other citizens.
That's worrying. Laws like that can be misused to stifle freedom of expression, press freedom. It's a recurring concern in many places.
Yeah, delicate balance.
Yeah.
Okay, time for our Did You Know segment. Just a couple of interesting little facts we stumbled upon. First, Vaseline, invented way back in the 1860s, Pennsylvania, by Robert Cheeseborough. And apparently, the purification process he developed, still basically used today.
Is that right? Over 160 years later. That's amazing persistence for a process.
Isn't it? And second, in football.
Yeah.
Then someone scores directly from a corner kick? That amazing curling shot.
Yeah, very rare. Very impressive.
Well, it has a special name. It's called an Olympic goal, or Olympico.
Olympico, I think I've heard that. Didn't know it was specifically called an Olympic goal, though. Fascinating. Always good to learn the proper terminology.
Adds a bit of depth, doesn't it?
Definitely.
And looking at today in history, May 21st marks a sad anniversary. The death of Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Atahiru, and 10 other officers in that plane crash in Kaduna back in 2021.
Yes, a terrible loss for the nation and the armed forces. Important to remember.
And on a different note, also today in history, the founding of FIFA, the world governing body for football, way back in 1904.
1904, wow. Shows how long international sport organization has been around.
And a quote for today from the incredible Rosa Parks. You must never be fearful about what you are doing when it is right.
Powerful words. Still resonate so strongly today, don't they? Reflecting on history like this, both the tragic and the foundational, and the words of figures like Rosa Parks, it gives important perspective, reminds us of significant moments and the enduring power of conviction.
It really does. Okay, just a few other quick mentions we pick up from the news headlines. The trial surrounding the death of football legend Diego Maradona, reportedly suspended for now. International news there.
Okay. Legal processes can be complex.
And back in Nigeria, there seems to be a disagreement between the National Assembly and Budget, the civic tech group, over projects worth around N$6.93 trillion in the 2025 budget proposal. Sounds like scrutiny over padding, maybe.
Yes. That debate about budget padding and constituency projects often flares up. N$6.93 trillion is a huge amount under discussion, important for transparency groups like Budget to be involved.
Definitely. On the business front, Flybird Airline got NCAA approval to operate an MRO facility, maintenance, repair, and overhaul.
That's good for the local aviation sector. Developing that kind of capacity domestically is important.
And some sad news. The Catholic Church mourning a priest in Anambra who died while playing tennis.
Oh, that's very sad. Unexpected loss.
And finally, a disturbing crime report from Abia. A man arrested for allegedly attacking a teenager with a machete.
Just another reminder of the violence we were discussing earlier. These brief mentions really do paint that broad picture, don't they? International legal issues, national budget debates, business steps forward, local tragedies, and crime. It's all part of the news landscape.
So, as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into just a single day's Nigerian headlines, it really is striking just how much is going on across the country. Everything from those critical security challenges we started with, significant economic shifts, the ongoing political maneuvering, and all these important social and legal debates. It truly highlights the complexity and the dynamism of Nigeria right now in 2025.
Indeed, it does. And keeping track of all these interconnected events, even just through the headlines, it's so important, isn't it, for understanding the direction the nation might be heading and its role on the global stage, too. Each of these stories, while they might seem distinct on the surface, they all contribute to this larger evolving narrative. A narrative of progress, yes, but also ongoing challenges and that continuous search for a better future for all Nigerians.
Well said. And on that note, here's something maybe for you, our listener, to consider. Looking at this huge range of challenges and developments we've touched upon today, security, economy, politics, social needs, all of it. What single area do you think holds the greatest potential right now? The potential to spark really significant positive change in Nigeria. And maybe more importantly, why do you think that? Definitely something to mull over. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.